In Colombia, new reports of repression by the mobile anti-riot squad in several cities were filed on Wednesday night. Peruvian candidates in the runoff presidential ballot are closing their campaigns this Thursday. Authorities in Nigeria confirmed that gunmen seized 136 children from an Islamic seminary on Sunday. From the headquarters of TeleSUR English in Havana, Cuba, this is From the South. I'm Gladys Quesada. In Colombia, new reports of repression by the mobile anti-riot squad in several cities were filed on Wednesday night. In Usme locality, police threw gases into houses, affecting children and elderly people. A 10-year-old child was taken out of his house with breathing difficulties. Similar scenes occur in the Marichuela and Suba in the outskirts of the Colombian capital, Bogotá. In the city of Popayán, Department of Cauca, human rights organizations reported heavy police presence in La Esmeralda neighborhood. In the city of Bucaramanga, several people were injured and arbitrarily detained by security forces. According to human rights defenders in Medellin, during the protests, 50 people were seriously injured. More than 100 people were severely affected by gases, and at least 10 were taken to a hospital. In the capital, Bogotá, police forces assaulted a journalist in the community of Usme and prevented protesters from providing him with medical assistance. Let's hear his testimony.
We were covering all the demonstrations that were happening in Usme, more specifically in Marichuela. We were watching the confrontation between demonstrators and public forces. My colleague and I decided to get closer to take a better record. At that moment, the police attacked us and the demonstrators. We went to the left side of the road, and some patrolmen approached us. They intimidated us. One of them attacked me and put me against the wall, followed by another uniformed officer, and what I felt was a blow to my lower body, and I fell to the ground because it was an extremely hard hit. My colleague approached me to protect me, because when they intervened, 3 more policemen approached, and one of them kicked me in the face. I was half disoriented. My partner was on top of me protecting me. 3 or 4 minutes passed, and we were screaming for help. I was half disoriented, and I checked my leg, and I noticed the bleeding. A first aid guy arrives and checks me, and the uniformed man leaves. After that, about 30 minutes passed, and there was no ambulance service, and they told us that the ambulance that was coming to help us was blocked by the members of the public force, and they did not let it pass. And then, with the help of the community, they brought a board that the front line had. They put me on that board and drove me to a cab. We arrived at the Cami Santa Librada hospital. We waited 15 minutes for them to attend me. I took my turn, they checked me, I received 5 stitches in the wound, and that was it.
In the same community of Usme in Bogotá, the police have been throwing tear gas canisters inside homes.
They have been throwing gas inside the houses for a while now. 2 women came out because they were going to take a boy with his hands up, and they didn't care, and they sent them in stun guns and gas. After that, they began to throw more gas inside the houses, because we are all witnesses here. They are throwing inside the houses. At that moment, the lady came out with a fainted child. She opened the door, and here we all have the children. As you can see, they were in a totally bad state. So what we are asking is no more abuse from them. They have no reason to throw gas inside the houses or anything else. They damage a house without talking so much. They are hitting whatever falls.
And now we move on. A protest in the southern Mexican state of Puebla resulted in the arrest of 32 student teachers, increasing tensions between the local government and also the students' union. The demonstration ended with repression, including blows of firing of tear gas by security forces. The protesters expressed their solidarity with students and another teaching school in the state of Chiapas after the repression they suffered on May 31st, which ended with the detention of 95 young people, mostly women, who denounced sexual abuse by police officers. The current tensions have brought to mind the disappearance of 43 student teachers of Ayotzinapa, a case that attracted international attention. Nicaraguan justice issued on Wednesday an arrest warrant against aspiring presidential candidate Maria Chamorro Barrios, who is charged with the crimes of abusive management and ideological falsehood. The judge of the 9th Criminal District of Managua hearing ordered the search and arrest of Cristiana Maria Chamorro Barrios, accused of the crimes of abusive management, ideological falsehood, in real competition with the crime of money laundering, property and assets to the detriment of the state. At the same time, Chamorro was disqualified from holding institutional and public office because she was not fully into her civil and political rights, and she was under an investigative criminal process. In Ecuador, the National Teachers Union called a rally outside the Constitutional Court and the government palace in the capital, Quito, to demonstrate against the suspension of the reform to the Intercultural Education Act. Teachers demanded the resumption of negotiations to carry out the reform of the legislation regarding the sector after it was ruled illegal by the Constitutional Court. They stressed that the suspension of the reform makes it difficult for the Ministry of Finance to carry out its constitutional duties, putting at risk the labor rights of teachers across the country. Participants demanded that the Guillermo Lasso administration allow the law to be rewritten and at the same time criticized the executive's proposal to return to on-site classes in the midst of the ongoing health crisis. They also called on the government to assign 6% of the national budget to the education sector and for the reinstatement of teachers who were made redundant during the pandemic, as well as the right to retirement after 25 years of service. In the northeast region of Brazil, peasants are fighting for the right to water, which they have been denied since January, the mayor's office of the city of Atalaya. Our team traveled to this territory to learn about the reality of these families. The following report by André Vieira and Sebastián Soro.
On the margins of Highway 316 in the city of Atalaya, in the state of Alagoas, is the Mariel Franco camp of the landless movement, home to 113 farming families occupying almost 100 hectares of 2 farms. Here they produce corn, beans, cassava, watermelon. In the meantime, the mayor's office is seeking legal action to evict these peasants. But this is not the only problem.
We are here in spite of what the mayor's office did to us. In the middle of the pandemic, they cut off our water supply. We are surviving with a water truck that the state government sends us on Fridays, and that is how we are surviving.
In the country with the world's second highest number of deaths due to COVID-19, water is an indispensable tool in the fight against coronavirus. The peasants denounce that the local authorities are playing with this sanitary necessity.
Look, there is no dialogue. The mayor, the current administration, has used blackmail by stating that they will only resume the water supply if we vacate part of this territory, which, according to her, is for the construction of an industrial center.
Farmer Baman built a system to collect rainwater and use it for her household chores and for the animals. At certain times of the year, however, water is not guaranteed by the municipality, nor does it fall from the sky.
When there is no rain, some of us gather together and go to the nearest river, or we have to go out with a bundle of clothes on our heads to look for water and wash our clothes and take advantage of the opportunity to look for water for our personal use.
The municipality of Atalaya did not respond when questioned about the water cut and the plans to settle these families. In the meantime, the farmers continue to fight for the water and land rights. Besides the difficulties, they donated 5 tons of healthy food produced collectively in the Mariel Franco camp during the pandemic. André Vieira and Sebastián Soto, TeleSUR, Brazil.
And we'll be right back after this very short break, so don't go away. Welcome back. Peruvian candidates in the runoff presidential ballot are closing their campaigns this Thursday. The vote is due to come on Sunday, June the 6th. Left-winger Pedro Castillo, slightly ahead on opinion polls, delivered in Lima a plan to fight the coronavirus pandemic and strengthen the country's public health system to the dean of Peru nurses Guild, Liliana La Rosa, while his opponent, Keiko Fujimori, representing corporate and right-wing interests, visited a different branch of the same guild. Both candidates' commands had chosen the central San Martin Square in Lima for their closing rallies Thursday evening. The government decided at the last minute to fend off the venue to avoid confrontations. In the United States, the police fired live ammunition on a 12-year-old boy and a 14-year-old girl. The girl was severely wounded. The children were shooting gunfire against police officers, local authorities said. According to Volusia County law enforcement sources, the children had escaped from a church home for orphaned youth and entered a vacant house where they armed themselves with a handgun, shotgun, and an AK-47 assault rifle. The police officers were reportedly met with gunfire when they attempted to surround the property. In attacking the children, the police fired several shots at the girl, who was taken later to hospital and underwent surgery. She is reportedly out of danger. Both children were charged with an attempted first-degree murder of a police officer and armed burglary. A European court ruled that former independent Catalan leader Charles Puigdemont had two of his allies regained provisional political immunity as members of the European Parliament. The trio is wanted by Spain on allegations of sedition following Catalonia's attempt to gain independence in 2017 via a referendum which Madrid described as constitutional and illegal. Puigdemont and Comín are additionally accused of embezzlement. All three live in exile. The court's decision will in theory allow them to freely travel within European Union countries, but their lawyer advised them not to go back to Catalonia. The sentence will now be subject to review by the European Parliament for observations before a final decision is made. Spain does not recognize the trio as European members of Parliament. A group of asylum seekers has been on hunger strike for 11 days in the Belgian capital as they seek a political response to their precarious situation. Since January 31st of this year, a church located in the central place Saint Catherine in Brussels has been occupied by the so-called undocumented migrants, who are demanding talks with the government and to be granted legal status in the country. Many have been living in Belgium for a long time and are calling for access to housing, health and education, as well as the right to work under legal conditions and not the situation of exploitation that most of them are because of their lacks of documents. The church has been occupied several times, as its priest is supportive of this such protest. A hunger strike by 200 undocumented people in 2009 led to a move by the government to grant legal status to migrants, but since then there has been no progress on the issue.
Documented are ready to go to the end. As long as a solution has not been found for their situation, they will not stop their hunger strike. It is a message said over and over again. They started. They explained to us verbatim, as long as we do not have, how shall I put it, a solution to our cause, they will not cease their hunger strike.
We are already dead, we are not alive, because we live like the others. We work, we have our accommodations, we pay the rent, we pay the charge. Our children study like the others. But we don't have a normal life like the others. This is why we are going on a hunger strike. We are workers, we are not slaves.
People, we are dying here. Every day there are 15, 20, like yesterday there were 18 ambulances. Today, since this morning, I heard that there were 10. The last one you saw it there now, 11. Until when will it stay like this?
two-day meeting of health ministers of the Group of Seven started Thursday at Oxford University in England. The rare presidential meeting gathers the top health officials of the UK, Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan and the United States. The University of Oxford is a key player in the development of vaccines against the coronavirus. That's where the AstraZeneca jab was created. In a statement, the British government said ministers committed to fight future health threats by working together to identify early warning signs from animals and the environment. G7 companies that have developed vaccines are fighting proposals to temporarily release intellectual property rights to allow a massive immunization in developing countries.
We'll be working together with G7 partners to try to meet the objective that a vaccine is made available right across the world. After all, this is a global pandemic and nobody is safe from it until everybody is safe.
According to health ministry reports, Colombia registered a new record for COVID-19 infections for the second consecutive day this Wednesday. The Ministry of Health and Social Protection reported 27,000 new cases, the highest number ever reported in a single day. 511 deaths related to COVID-19 were also registered. The country has now reported over 3.4 million confirmed cases. The government has been criticized for its failure to adopt measures to curb the spread of the virus and also support those financially hit by the pandemic. And the coaches of Argentina and Chile's national soccer teams have expressed their concern after the Regional Football Confederation decided to hold the America Cup tournament in Brazil, apparently overlooking the fact that the country has the second highest COVID-19 death toll and the third highest number of cases in the world.
Our perspective, because we were going to be at our own facilities most days, concentrated with our precautions. Now we are faced with this new situation which, frankly, is alarming and worrying because Brazil is honestly not the ideal place. In the end, it was decided that it shouldn't be played in Argentina for health reasons, for a logical reason, and it turns out that now we are going to Brazil. That's all there is to it, and surely Brazil is the same, or worse, or a little better in terms of conditions than us. From that point of view, it is a very difficult situation to digest.
And we have more stories coming up after this final short break, so stay with us. Welcome back. Authorities in Nigeria confirmed that gunmen seized 136 children from an Islamic seminary on Sunday. The Niger state government first reported the raid on the school in the town of Tehina on Monday, but did not indicate the number of children seized. Armed gangs have been terrorizing inhabitants in northwest and central Nigeria by looting villages, stealing cattle, and taking people hostage. Gunmen carrying out kidnapping for ransom are responsible for a series of raids on schools and universities in northern Nigeria in recent months, in which more than 800 students have been abducted since the end of December. In a statement, the government said it has initiated the negotiation to bring the students back safely.
I appeal to the government, they should try by all possible ways to protect our peoples for us, our children for us. We cannot say anything. They tried with the effort that they made so far, and we are hoping they are going to try harder to bring back our children successfully.
On Thursday, China held a meeting with the foreign ministers of Afghanistan and Pakistan as Beijing looks to step up its engagement with both Kabul and Islamabad amid the withdrawal of United States forces from Afghan soil. The fourth meeting between the three countries' foreign ministers was carried out virtually and chaired by China. The trilateral dialogue addressed the uncertainties in the wake of the withdrawal of the US and NATO forces, as well as in-depth exchanges of views on the Afghan peace and reconciliation process and counter-terrorism and security cooperation. China Foreign Ministry spokesperson stated that the meeting is an important platform to enhance mutual trust and promote collaborations, and that Pakistan and China can play an important role for the reconstruction of Afghanistan after the establishment of peace in the country. After several days of intense negotiations, 8 Israeli opposition parties announced Thursday an agreement to form a new government. The deal was announced by Yair Lapid, leader of the Yesh Atid party, and must be approved by the Knesset, the Israeli parliament, in the coming days. If it passes, it will put an end to 12 years of Benjamin Netanyahu as prime minister and install Naftali Bennett, a hardline right-wing nationalist, at head of the government for 2 years. This coalition government will include an Arab party, the Arab Islamist Ram, for the first time in the history of Israel's regime. Mali's coup leader and now interim president Assimi Goïta has named a new civilian prime minister after conducting a second coup in 9 months last week. Shogel Kolala Maiga's appointment was widely expected. He is the leader of the 5th June Rally of Patriotic Forces movement, the same group that took part in the overthrow of former President Ibrahim Boubacar Keïta last year by a young army officers led by Goïta following protests over perceived corruption. Last week, army officers upset with a government reshuffle that saw 2 military ministers replaced with civilians detained the transitional president and the prime minister before reporting they had resigned and releasing them. The transitional president asked for support for his choice of prime minister from the opposition M5 movement, a once powerful group which the military sidelined after the August 2020 coup. The African Union and the Economic Community of West African States have both suspended Mali and called for a return to a civilian rule. Chad's new head of state, Mohamed Idriss Déby, the president of the Transitional Military Council, who succeeded his father Idriss Déby No, met with Angola's president João Lourenço during a visit in Luanda. Angolan Minister of Foreign Affairs, Tere Antonio, said during the meeting that the country has every interest in the stability of Chad, so we have to make sure that the power in Chad is embraced in order to contribute to the stability of the country. In addition, relations between the two countries have strengthened in areas such as oil, energy, transport, finance, and agriculture.
An unstable Chad will be a point of departure for the destabilization of our region, so we have expressed our support for the stability of Chad.
To help Chad face the challenge linked to the transition and the security challenge, regional organizations such as the African Union, sub-regional organizations such as the Lake Chad Basin Commission and the Economic Community of Central African States are each mobilizing at their own level to support Chad in overcoming its challenge.
And we have come to the end of this news brief. But remember, you can find this and many other stories on our website and our social media pages. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Telegram. For TeleSUR English, I'm Gladys Quesada. Thank you for watching.